I've been gone for a minute. I apologize for that, but I'll get into that later with some updates with other videos that I've promised you. Right now, this Street Fighter topic has been burning in the back of my mind since I started playing it a few months ago, and even longer so when it came out. The question of query is, why are casual players or non-fighting game players flocking to Street Fighter 6 and sticking with it compared to the older games? With Street Fighter 6, you'll see famous VTubers playing the game and having the average fighting game experience. You even see people who've never been into Street Fighter actually playing Street Fighter 6, but they're all having fun with it. Capcom themselves has said that Street Fighter 6 has become profitable after a year on the market. There are a lot of reasons as to why this is happening. However, I would like to focus on certain aspects that I think that are keeping people locked into Street Fighter 6 and the Street Fighter 6 world. The first point is kind of tired, so I will speed through it along with some other small points. The point being is that Street Fighter 6 has a proper online mode with great netcode. Rollback is such an integral part in learning fighting games in the modern era online. Fighting games I've played in the past haven't had the best online experience. Every Tekken I played before 8, Dragon Ball FighterZ before the rollback update. Every Arc System work game before their rollback renaissance. With Street Fighter 6, the experience has been more or less great. Of course, it has its problems, such as people with bad connections ruining the fun, and I don't mean playing someone from other country. I expect those to be kind of rough. What I mean is fighting somebody in the US. Somehow, playing someone on the west coast of the US on Wi-Fi is worse than playing somebody with an Ethernet or Wi-Fi connection in a place like Taiwan or something. Like, some of you bronies need to get a better internet connection or provider or something. Sometimes I get online, I play a match with somebody with an odd number of wins, and that connection bar is a Wi-Fi indicator or Ethernet bar that is red. When I see that and the game turns into a slideshow or a Dragon Ball episode, I'll be like, yeah, I see how you got to this level. And this isn't even about me bigging myself up like that. It's about playing people around the same skill level as me, and yet I can't get a decent match sometimes, and it ruins the experience overall. And I'm only like a master rank. I'm not even that good. I'm like between 1,000 and 1,400 right now with Terry. But this is my fault to an extent, as well as I have the online matchmaking settings set to worldwide. I can avoid this problem by choosing who I want to accept a match from as well, but going in blind is fun. So I have the system automatically set to accept certain matches. This leads to my next little point in crossplay. I get to play people who are on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. This is great for me as I can play on Xbox in my bed compared to my computer desk, especially now since my gaming PC has met its maker. Rest in peace, my gaming PC. I hardly knew thee. That's a part of the reason why I haven't been making that many videos lately, but I'm back now, even without a computer. So not only crossplay is fairly good, the connection is relatively stable when playing people on other platforms. This paired along with Battle Hub is one of the key reasons as to why casuals are sticking around. Battle Hub brings a MMO-like experience to Street Fighter in the form of a lobby system that allows players to use their created character from the story mode in an online setting, something most other fighting games can't or don't do besides Soul Calibur. I mean, there are Arc System Works games that have a lobby system with little chibi characters. However, they are not full-scale characters that can be used in actual matches. While you can't use these Street Fighter 6 created characters in every mode like rank mode, seeing the weird builds and combinations people produce is always a plus for the casual audience. I mean, it seems to be doing very well for Capcom as every update adds more customization for them as opposed to the playable cast. Capcom, I know you're not watching this, but if somebody wants to share this with them, please let them know that we want more costumes for the main cast. We will buy them. Probably. Maybe. It depends. On the topic of characters are a huge part as to why people pick up and are more likely to keep playing a fighting game. Based on research I conducted, aka I just asked some friends and family members, some are willing to at least pick up Street Fighter 6. For this small concentrated group of 21 people, including myself, varying from 10 to 45 years old, I asked them all the same question. To keep this process a lot more accurate to what I was looking for, I've only asked people who actively play video games or have played video games in the past. I was going to split them into different age groups to give a more accurate representation, but I decided not to because I'm lazy. If you guys want the information, let me know in the comment section and I'll pin those results as the top comment on this video, as well as put them in the description. I also only ask people who have at least heard of the Street Fighter IP. Among them, I ask these simple questions. Have you ever played Street Fighter? 8 of the 21 said yes, or 38%. If so, how was the first time you played it? Here, I gave them a multiple choice between arcade, console/PC, or the other option. Of those 8 people, 63% of them, or 5 of them, said that they had only played on an arcade system, while the other 3 had played on a console. Nobody said other. If not, how did you hear of Street Fighter? This was another multiple choice question where I asked them, did they hear or watch another family member or friend play? Did they see it through an ad? Or was there another way that they had heard of the game or franchise? 13 people, or 62% of people in the control group, had said they had never played Street Fighter before. However, everyone in the test had heard of Street Fighter, as I alluded to before. From those 13 people, 10 or 77% of them had heard of them from a family member or friends, or watched a friend or family member play the game. Only 2 had seen advertising, and 1 had heard of it through the Street Fighter movie. Crazy, right? I've never heard of that one before. For this question, I asked whether, regardless if you've ever played Street Fighter, do you have any interest in playing any new Street Fighter title? 6 people, or 28% of the 21 participants, answered yes. The remaining answered no. If you notice, 8 people said that they hadn't played Street Fighter before, but only 6 of the total would be interested in a new Street Fighter title. To disclose, everyone who said they played Street Fighter before are the only ones who said they'd be willing to play a new Street Fighter title, while those who had never played will continue to not play Street Fighter. So why would some people not want to play Street Fighter anymore after investing in it at some point in their lives? Well, I kind of figured that out with this next set of questions. For those who answered yes to wanting to play a new Street Fighter title, I asked this question along with the multiple choice. What makes you want to play this new title? And the multiple choices went like, things to do besides fighting online. This includes story mode, character creator, customization, and other game modes. Characters such as new, legacy, or from other franchises. Or do you want easier gameplay mechanics? And if they didn't want to play a new Street Fighter game, or they weren't interested in it, I also gave the same choices to those who answered yes to the question. I would say the results were staggering, but they were about what I expected from casual gamers. Almost all of the answers were in a 3-way deadlock. Bringing in the rear were the characters. 5 of the 21, or 24% of the people, said that characters were important enough to pick up Street Fighter. A lot of these characters have a special place in people's heart. It's why you see Ryu, Ken, Guile, and Cammy in almost every Street Fighter title, and why Akuma has been DLC for the last 2, so they can get people to actually buy the game or buy the DLC characters for them. For those who bubble in this answer, I also asked if Capcom were to add a specific character, whether it be a legacy, I used old for the youngins, new, or a character from another franchise, would that sway them into at least giving them or Street Fighter a try? Everyone said yes, maybe, or it depends on the character. The first topic of discussion, Battle Hub, World Tour, and character customization, locks in at 2. Outperforming characters with 7 out of the 21, or 32% of the people. This is not surprising, as I've said before that Capcom puts the most effort into character customization for Street Fighter 6. Another reason why I think this is number 2 is usually what happens with fighting games is that people get bored quickly. This is due to the fact that in most fighting games, the only thing you can do in them is, well, fight, and usually online. Capcom remedies this in 2 ways beyond just creating a character. The first is the other things you could do in Battle Hub besides Street Fighter 6. You could play older Street Fighter titles as well as other arcade games made by Capcom, I believe. I've only played the arcade version of Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 6, and that was when I first played the game after creating my character. This lets players play more than one game without getting bored of Street Fighter 6. I doubt many people actually play on those arcade cabinets for their older games, but I do think casual players like the illusion of choice when it comes to games. The same thing applies to the story mode, or whatever they call it. World Tour, I believe. After creating a character for the story mode, you get to visit places in Metro City, or whatever it's called, and other locations to not only train with Street Fighter characters, but you also can equip their moves to your character. You can play different mini games to acquire points to buy things as well. As a person who only wants to train or fight people online, I don't use this mode often. The last time I actually use this mode was to unlock Kimberly's alternate costume. After that, I stopped playing it. However, I do recommend it to people who are trying to get into Street Fighter if they're not used to fighting games and stuff. It is pretty fun, but I digress. I said I was gonna get through these quickly, but I guess that didn't happen. And at number 1 was easier gameplay. Easy gameplay won 9 out of the 21, or 43% of the vote, with people saying they would at least try it if it was easier to play. To an extent, this coincides with the release of Street Fighter 6, as it's way easier compared to the other Street Fighter titles in the past, or at least the modern ones. One of the ways they make gameplay easier for casuals is through the combo structure now. While there are ways to modify the combos in Street Fighter with mechanics like drive rush and drive meter, we'll get to that in a second. Combos in Street Fighter 6 follow a certain path. I don't mean like Dragon Ball FighterZ in which characters have a generic BMB that helps learn the character easier and in turn learning other characters easier. Well, kind of. I kind of mean that. Tekken also kind of has this flow. In Street Fighter 6, you hit an opponent with a normal, you do a drive rush cancel, and finish the combo the way you want. In a game like Tekken, you confirm a hit, usually a launcher or a counter hit. You go into a corkscrew or bound attack depending on the game, and you finish the combo. I think this uniformity and combo structure, along with the easier counter hit confirms, make players feel like they've accomplished something amazing, which they do within the context of each game. The drive rush meter and its uses contribute to this feeling of accomplishment beyond just your combos. It's also used very often and very aggressively in neutral. Personally, I think the reason most people drop fighting games is because of the way neutral is played in each game. It differs per game, and in games like Call of Duty or other shooters such as Battlefield or Valorant and stuff, the first level of interaction you have is just point, shoot, run, right? But for fighting games, you have to learn everything, including neutral. And people usually give up after playing a zoner or playing a person way better than them that can beat them in neutral every time. Honestly, when I first started playing fighting games a long time ago, this was the first hurdle I had to jump over. Tekken 5 was my first real fighting game, and BlazBlue was the one that made me want to compete against higher level players. Neutral ended up being the biggest obstacle, not for the lack of trying. I eventually figured it out. It was due to the information overload that was happening at the time. Learning combos, then finding practical combos off certain hits, dodging whatever thing they throw at you while you're trying to figure out the mix-up that you're hitting you with. It's an overwhelming experience for those who are not dedicated to a game or the genre itself. Just like every other genre of games, you have to put in the time and effort to be good at them. I tried League of Legends for the first time because I wanted to know about the League of Legends fighting game 2XKO. I got into the beta. It was actually pretty good. I downloaded it and deleted it almost immediately after. The game was confusing, yet the gameplay loop was relatively easy. I imagine that's how people who don't play fighting games feel about them. Even though that game was hard for me and it seems relatively easy for other people, those games don't have the same stigma that they are hard like fighting games do. Rather than execution being the difficulty barrier, strategy is. Most fighting games require strategy and execution to be amazing. Throw it in neutral and it does make them harder to learn in a vacuum. Street Fighter kind of circumvents this with the inclusion of drive rush and Martyr controls. Let's get Martyr controls out of the way real quick. Martyr controls simplify a lot of Street Fighter's tempo mechanics. It takes a game from a 6-button fighter with different strength moves and quarter circle forwards, half circles, and DP motions into a game with directional inputs. Martyr controls don't let you get complete control of your character compared to the classic controls. However, it does let players worry about other components of the game such as neutral. That's where drive rush comes in as well. I think drive rush is the most integral part as to why people keep playing Street Fighter 6 compared to the past Street Fighter games. Drive rush essentially lets players skip neutral by using their drive gauge. Like I said before, I believe along with information overload is the main reason why people eventually drop fighting games. With drive rush, the decision making in neutral gets less strenuous on players. All they have to do is drive rush to close the gap between them and the opponent. Drive rush is also why a lot of top players don't like competing in Street Fighter 6, or they like Street Fighter 6 but they don't like drive rush. But I believe the main reason for this disparity between high level players, mostly professional, and low level players is the cycle that I learned when playing Dragon Ball FighterZ or any games with these type of mechanics. From my experience at low levels, Dragon Rush is hard for people to punish because they are just starting out. Then when entering an intermediate level of play, drive rush becomes less effective when thrown out because people will see it coming and they'll know how to punish it or stop the pressure in some way. So drive rush becomes less prevalent at this level of play. However, when reaching a higher level, drag rush becomes a problem again because these players are suffering from information overload, making something that was easy to punish at mid-level hard again. Dragon Ball Fighter has this with Super Dash, hard to deal with at the beginning, easy to punish at intermediate, and hard to interact with at higher levels. But because of these low-level interactions being fun, it makes more people liable to stick around and get better at the games. These results weren't earth-shattering to say the least, nor indicative of the entire world. However, it does show, at least amongst the people that I know, why Street Fighter is molded the way it is. It's easier than past games, more variety in game modes, and new and old characters for people to discover and rediscover with Street Fighter 6 mechanics. I believe these are the main reasons as to why casuals are sticking around for Street Fighter 6 compared to older Street Fighter titles. This part of the video is for the people who watch my mini retrospectives and all that stuff. I'm sorry I've been gone for quite a long time. I said that at the beginning of the video, but I like to reiterate that again, that I am sorry for being gone. And I do plan on continuing the Naruto Gekido Ninja Tyson retrospective and the Dragon Ball Budokai series retrospective. I'm also thinking about doing Budokai Tenkaichi, but that would be like the first time I'm playing those. So that would be like a first reaction to those. So if you want to see those, let me know if you actually are watching this video. So again, I'm sorry for it, and thank you for watching. If you watched for however long this video ends up being, thank you.
This is gonna be fun.